Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel today. I'm James, and I've got a very special guest with me, Jon, as you may know him as Exjw Analyzer. How you doing today, Jon?
Oh, I'm good. A little stressful day, some drama I had to deal with online, but otherwise that's fine. I avoid that whenever possible. So I handed it over to my pal Jimmy,
That
so
seems
I
to
didn't
be
have to deal
everybody's
with it.
day today.
I'm sure Jimmy's grateful for that.
Yeah, right? So, anyways, welcome everybody back to episode 2 of the Non-Jaded You. And so, everybody who's familiar with your channel will already know that you're an ex-Jehovah Witness.
Yep.
And, of course, in the future, I'd like to get into, not just sticking with ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, but other religions as well. Hence why I named it Non-Jaded You rather than another name I had before. I can't remember right now.
That's a good idea, though, because I didn't realize until I left the Witnesses that there are a lot of fundamentalist religions that behave very much the same. So we're all
Yeah.
in the same, or at least a very similar boat.
Well, I got the idea for this actually from listening to Shunned podcast. I don't know if
Oh
you're familiar
yeah,
with that.
sure, yeah.
And, when he goes through his stories, they're all stories of people that went through their various religious backgrounds, Mormon, with Jehovah Witness, etc. And I didn't want to focus on, excuse me, the bad stories anymore. I kind of wanted to focus on life after we leave those religions, and hence why we're doing this today. So, to get started off with, when was it when you first woke up? How old were you, and what was that like for you at that initial point?
Well, it was about 4 years ago that I started to wake up. Something really awful happened in the congregation. It was a massive injustice to myself and my wife Beth. Stop the Shunning. Everybody knows her as Stop the Shunning. Uh, and that it was a real punch in the face that I wasn't expecting, because something happened where I thought that they were going to be reasonable and understanding about, and they chose to be the exact opposite. So I was really pissed about that, and it pushed me to do some research. I did not touch anything apostate. I wasn't even thinking along those lines. All I wanted to do was to look up what Bible scholars, actual legit scholars, say about this one particular topic. But with Watchtower, once you go in, that house of
Yep,
cards just collapses really fast. So
yep, yep.
within 6 months, I was completely awake, and I saw the organization at that point not as malevolent, but just as incorrect, like inaccurate about a number of things, a lot of things. But when the arc happened, and that was Beth's trigger, when I found out about that, she found out about that, that was huge. I mean, that was the last nail in the coffin for her. And for me, I mean, I found out about Watchtower's investments into things that they'll disfellowship you for, and of course, the United Nations connection and all kinds of
Mm-hmm.
jwfacts.com. I mean, just the whole thing. And that was when I knew that they weren't just mistaken, even though I was fully awake as far as, no, they're not Jehovah's organization or whatever. They mean well, but they have problems. That's when I realized, oh, they don't mean well. This is really, really bad. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's when Beth and I, we put in our disassociation letters together, because I wanted to formally resign. I wanted to be on paper as no longer being involved. And that was December 31st of 2017.
Okay.
So we both sent our letters on the day before uh, 2018. And I remember because we watched XJW Critical Thinkers uh, New Year's Eve toast video for 2018 at midnight. It went live and they did their
Right.
toast. So it's something that helps me remember, because I'm bad with dates, but I remember that because of XJW Critical Thinker.
It's always
JT
nice to have a
Legacy.
reference point.
Yep.
Here we go, just plugging everybody's channels right now.
Hey, they're all great people. They deserve it.
Oh yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for the YouTube community, I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you right now either. So
Yep.
I'm grateful to all of them as well for helping me along my journey.
Yeah.
But
That
anyways,
is
this isn't
different. That is different for me because like Beth is the same. It was Lloyd Evans, Sean Cedars. Beth binge watched his stuff for
mm-hmm.
months, and that's what did
Yep.
it for her. But I my path is different. I went down the path of what do biblical scholars say about the doctrines of this religion. And once you get into history and archaeology and, you know, the real scholarship, you realize just how full of holes all of it is. And then you dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and you start to realize that the whole concept of absolute truth or religious truth starts to show a lot of holes. And at the very least, to be very worn around the edges. And so that was different for me. It wasn't like, oh my God, I found out about this apostate stuff and the UN and I'm out. You know, I walked down the ladder. I didn't fall off and land on my face. A lot of people
Right.
do. A lot of people, they have that sudden realization that, oh my God, this isn't the truth. And then it's earth shattering. But I was like working my way down the rungs and kind of just stepped off and walked away.
Right, right. So when you first woke up, you know, within like the first 6 months to a year after your complete wake up, you know, you stopped going to meetings, you put your disassociation letter in. So what was that initial transition out of the organization like for you?
It felt like I was getting away with something. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. You know, when you're a witness, you have all these things you feel obligated to do
Mhm.
all the time.
Yep.
You know, you're going out in service, you're going to the meetings, you're studying, you're reading the Bible, you're, you know, praying, you're trying to find ways in which to constantly do more because you're pushed to do more. And then when I started to, I won't even call it fading because I wasn't doing it on purpose. Uh, I just went inactive because I started researching this stuff and realizing that they weren't right. But until I was fully awake, which took about 6 months from the day that started, you know how Watchtower makes you feel bad about all the stuff you don't do?
Oh
And that
yeah.
hangs on you. So even if you're not doing it, so you don't have the stress of doing it, you have the stress of thinking you should be doing it.
Exactly.
So when
Yep.
I woke up and put in the letter of dissociation, it was a strange feeling like, you know, like I'm skipping school, you know, like I'm getting away with something. But then it hit me. I wasn't getting away with anything. The Watchtower had been getting away with a whole lot for a very long time. And now that was off my
Yes.
shoulders. So it was like taking a backpack full of bricks and setting it down. Like, wow, I can move now. And it's not a struggle to walk.
Exactly. Especially like if you're any type of a family man, you start to realize how much more time you have to actually spend with your family rather than going to all the meetings, trying to go out in service, doing the study, and
Yep.
just all the things they pile on top of you constantly. It's just like, you know, they always say, um, was it throw your burden on Jehovah?
Right.
And my
Right.
yoke is kindly and my load is light. But yet, once you get rid of all that Watchtower stuff, it's like all that weight has been lifted off your shoulders, and then you're just like, I can breathe again.
Yeah. And that's an important point I want to make. The yoke, the burdensome yoke of Watchtower was gone. But I've always been and still remain a very spiritual person. I'm not what you would call religious because I'm not involved in any organized religion, but I have a very spiritual outlook on life and myself. I identify as agnostic because I don't know. I'm very science minded. I'm a software developer. So I'm an odd mix of logic and spirituality and hope and doubt.
Right.
But I'm happy and I'm at peace. So I must be doing something right.
Well, yeah. Hey, I mean, and that's one of those situations where whatever works for you best in your life and where you're going to find your own ultimate fulfillment, that's what's the most important thing to do.
Right.
You know, rather than somebody telling you what your ultimate fulfillment is going to be.
Yeah, that was huge. All the decisions being my own decisions. Like,
Yeah.
and I do a lot of volunteer work, not as much now that we're in Winston-Salem, but I'm wanting to get back into supporting Habitat for Humanity here locally. Because I did some work for them back when we lived in Charlotte and Love Incorporated, where I would go and There are people who are either disabled or elderly, needed work on their house or whatever. I turned my service day, Saturday, into my go volunteer for something day. And Beth and I would pack backpacks with like supplies for homeless people and things like that. So it's not like I was like, oh, hey, I'm worldly now, I can do whatever I want. I still have this obligation to help people. That's the channel. That's
Right.
never gone away. I feel obligated to help and support people in whatever way I can. But now I do that in the ways that I choose to, that best fit my personality and my
Mhm.
capabilities, rather than doing the things that I was told I have to do, because if I don't do it, God's going to slay me at Armageddon.
Right.
Very
Exactly.
different approach to the whole thing.
It is. It is. So here's the question I'd love to ask too. So you you're freshly out. You don't have the witness indoctrination looming over you anymore. I mean, you still do, but you're not feeling obligated to anymore. So what was the first quote unquote worldly thing that you wanted to do when you first left?
My kids' birthdays, for sure,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we disassociated on the 31st of December, and my daughter's birthday is in early April. So I was chomping at the bit as soon as it was official, because Beth was waiting because of her parents. I would have dissociated 6 months earlier than I did.
Hmm.
But I was waiting because Beth wasn't ready. She knew she was going to have to deal with her parents and the shunning and the whole thing. So I just waited till she was ready. But as soon as we put it in, I started planning her birthday, Alicia's
Awesome.
birthday, my daughter's birthday. And oh, of course,
Awesome.
she loves it, because what kid doesn't love a birthday and cake and balloons and everything?
Oh
So that
yeah.
was a big deal for me. It's very important to me to make a big deal out of my kid's birthday, even though, raised in the religion, it doesn't mean anything to me for myself. I want it to mean something to them, and it really does. They really look forward to it.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, my kids are the exact same way, just to see the joy on their faces. And
Yeah.
it's just that pure joy that they get because, hey, I'm going to have my friends over. I'm going to have gifts. It's fun.
Yep.
And, I remember watching, who was Christian and Katya's channel, another
Yeah,
plug.
sure. Yeah.
They were talking about celebrating Christmas for their first time. And they're like, look, there's nothing floating around in our house here.
Yeah, we did the Christmas tree for the first time last year, and I would have done it the year before, but Beth wasn't like, I don't know about that, but a switch got thrown last summer, and Beth just was like, I want a Christmas tree. I want a Christmas tree. And so I'm like, well, let's get a Christmas. So we got the Christmas tree. She's an artist. Uh, she's Beth needs like 12 business cards. She taught ballet. She was a licensed massage therapist in Texas. She's a fantastic artist. Now she's got her degree in psychology, and she's a certified life coach. I mean, like I do one thing. I feel like the dumb one in the family, She's the smart one for sure. But one of her talents is she's phenomenal with any kind of layout, color selection, staging, making things look good. So we got a Douglas fir Christmas tree, because I heard that was like the Cadillac of Christmas trees. And she made that thing look so phenomenal. And I got it when the lights were off in the room, but the lights were on in the tree. And you're sitting in the room, and Michael Bublé is playing his Christmas album on Alexa. I get why people love this, even though we
Hmm.
didn't do the gifts last year. And this year I'm thinking I'm gonna have my kids like donate to a charity as their gift, because they do the birthday thing. And I'm not really about the gifts. I figured if it was really his birthday, and he would want you to go do something good for somebody else, not just yourself. But whatever. People do things the way they want to. But the tree and the lights and all that, I love it. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, and that was always one of my little secret, you know, things in my head. as a witness. You know, I always loved the Christmas time of year because everybody was always in better moods. You had the lights, the music was good. You
Yeah.
know,
You
better
pretend
than.
not to like the music because it's supposed to be satanic, but we all love the music. I mean, come on.
But I still had all those songs stuck in my head all the time, and I'd hum them to myself.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Just like when I was a kid, my parents told me I went to the closet and sang "Happy Birthday" to myself. So
See, you were never cut out for that life. That's just all there
I
is to
guess
it.
not. I guess not. I was just too dumb to leave any earlier than I did. That's all.
It's not about intelligence. It's
I
emotional. I tell people that all the time because people
know. I know.
they say on the channel, "Oh, how was I so dumb to do this?" I'm like, look, I'm a very logical, rational person in every other aspect of my life. I'm a software developer. I eat and breathe logic for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm just a very left-brained person. That's just who I am. But it took me 37 years because I was raised in it. It's all
Exactly.
I knew. And the
Hmm.
psychology behind that is very, very powerful. So when people tell me, oh, how did I last so long? Well, it's because psychology has a stranglehold on you no matter how intelligent you are. You're still a human being. You're still a biological creature with a brain that has certain parameters that it feels the need to stick to. And one of those is tribalism. It
Hmm.
needs to belong to a group that is the right group. That's how people are.
Oh yeah.
So it's not your fault that you stayed with it it's nobody's fault. I tell people that all the time.
Well, there's that, and then there's the emotional blackmail aspect of it with the family. You're going to lose all your family and your friends if you leave. So even if you don't believe it anymore, you're still stuck in that emotional
Right.
void because you don't want to lose that part of your life.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for people to let go.
Yeah, for me, I was I was a true believer. Excuse me. I was a true believer until I didn't believe it at all. I mean, it was like
Right.
right up to the minute when the switch got thrown and the scales fell off, and I'm like, oh, it's all bogus, all of it. And I mean, I had that small moment that the OMG moment. What does this mean? But
Hmm.
it's just not in my nature to dwell on that. So I just started educating myself and finding answers to the best of anybody's ability to get answers in a world that's not offering a lot of answers and the big question department. We don't
Right.
come built in with the answers to the big questions. We just don't. So I mean that in itself is a question that I wonder about. Why don't we have built-in answers if we were created to worship or however people do? I mean, it's obviously very common. The vast majority of human beings feel the need to worship in some way, or at least to have some form of spirituality. Yet we have no innate answers. So I
Right.
wonder if part of if there is a God, because like I said, I'm agnostic, so I'm open. I'm open to it, one way or the other. I don't currently believe that I have enough evidence to believe in a God in the traditional sense, uh, but I'm open. So if anybody knows something I don't, send me a private
Right.
message, leave a comment. I want to hear it. Uh, but yeah, it makes me wonder. Maybe the whole purpose is to explore. Maybe exploration of the answers is the purpose. Maybe we're not born with the answers because part of that enlightenment or growth is finding them on your own. And maybe that answer is different for different people. And I'm okay with that. Now,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Whatever your path is, I tell people this all the time too. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care if you're atheist. I don't care if you're agnostic. I don't care what flavor of religion you are, as long as it makes you a good person and you care about people and you're generous and kind. That's it. That's all I care about. Whatever makes you that thing, that's a good thing, and do
Hmm.
that. But that thing is different for everyone. And unfortunately, some people don't have that at all.
Yeah. Exactly. So, anyways, now you've mentioned already a couple times you're a software developer. Now, did you before you ever left? Did you have your own business before you left?
Yeah.
And
I
so,
been writing code since I was 8 years old.
right.
I've been self-employed for the last 16 years and only
Okay.
left. I woke up about 4 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago. So
So did leaving impact your business at all? Did you
No,
work?
it didn't, because, well, and that's part of the whole, and I know we're being positive here, but there's a lot of hypocrisy in that organization.
Right,
Uh, and I employed a lot of people, and people weren't just going to quit because I was their paycheck. It's not like I worked for somebody else and so they felt the need to let me go, which is illegal, by the way, but I've heard it happen many times.
right,
I was the employer. So
right,
people wouldn't just leave because then they'd have to go find another job. So it's another one of those hypocritical two-way streets, you know?
right. But did they start like treating you different when they worked
No.
with you because of that?
No, and I think the reason is because I never treated anybody else any differently. And
Right.
people saw I was the same person I had always been. I just was no longer one of them,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. And
But I was
and
the
that
same person. It's that cognitive dissonance, you know. It's like
oh yeah.
they have to believe that I'm a bad person while seeing that I'm not at the same time.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, I know all about that. When you have, because I had a friend that was, disfellowshipped for 12 years while I was in, and for probably the first 4 or 5, I didn't talk to him, but then I wanted to talk to him, so I was the bad one. I started talking to him.
Right.
So, but now he's turned the table and doesn't talk to me. So it's just like you can't win for losing.
Oh, the crazy game of religious chess we had to play, you know.
I tell you what. But now you said you've been a software developer. You've been developing software since you were 8 years old.
8 years old.
So you never actually went to school or got any other formal education in that at all,
When I
did you?
graduated high school, I went to the local college and I looked at the syllabus for their computer science degree. And I said, I already know all that. So I went out and got a job instead. And that's one of the things that in IT you can do. If you can demonstrate the skills, at least it was when I worked for other people. I've been self-employed so long, I don't know what it's like now. Though I'm told by a local friend that it's still the same way. That if you can demonstrate the skills, you can get a job in IT. It's not like you
Mm-hmm.
have to have a degree. It's not, because there's so many people who get degrees as software developers, computer science, have no idea what they're doing. They're not good at it. And that's okay. I mean, there's a thing when I used to work for other people, I had a manager and she was awesome. She was a very good developer. And she was the lead developer over the team. And she told me, she said, there's this thing. You can't teach it. You can't teach it. Either someone's got it or they don't. And if you've got it, you can be a software developer and you're going to be good at it. If you don't, go do something else. No, that's just how it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. I know all about that. I tried my hand at a IT degree, and here I am. I'm a welder. So
Yeah.
that's
Yep. I
like
knew early on, I bought a $5 uh, TRS-80 Radio Shack computer from a garage sale. I had to bum the $5 off my dad, who was broke at the time because he was on disability, but he gave it to me. God bless him. And I brought it home and plugged it into the TV because I was back. You didn't have to have a monitor. You could hook it up, to the TV. Booted it up, saw the basic programming language. I was like, well, what's that? So I went to the library and got a book on the basic programming language, and that's it. I've been writing code ever since.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't just do that either. So that's good that you did that.
Yep.
You
I'm
know?
self-taught. Everything I do, everything I know, I just love to learn. I love to read.
Yeah, I know, because in our private conversations, sometimes you get on a whole tangent about the philosophy that you get into and read. So I know that's one of your hobbies that you like to do. And, I honestly, like I've told you, I have no idea about any of that stuff. I can't even keep up with you on those conversations, but it does sound interesting though.
Have I said I'm sorry? I know I tend to talk about the stuff I like a lot. You're like, oh, you don't have to listen. Just let me speak.
And you notice that's about what I do. I try to
Yep.
insert what I can here and there, but honestly, it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, Deasis is pretty good to talk about for the people who don't know who that is. He's another local Exjw. He's good to talk about this stuff because he has a deep way about him. You know, he likes to think that way, but he's extremely right-brained, which is, it's very fascinating to me that he's so right-brained and I'm so left-brained, yet in this area we like meet. We have a meeting of the minds, and I like that. And that's one of the other things about
Mm-hmm.
leaving that I love.
So, friendship.
Oh, sorry, you paused for a minute.
Yeah, the connection kind of staggered for a second there.
Okay. Well, what I was saying was that that's one of the great things about being out is deasis is when I was a witness and he was a witness, we never would have been friends. There's no
Mm-hmm.
way. We're too different. And in witness world, different is bad.
Yes.
So if someone's too different, you think there's something wrong with them, right? You distrust the difference. But outside, our differences is a very positive thing because
Mm-hmm.
it brings that difference. We make up for each other's deficiency. Don't make me quote scripture about an equalizing taking place. You know?
Yes.
And same thing with Jimmy, because he's also on the round tables, and we just all bring something different. So the friends that I have now, the local friends that I have now, it's fine. We don't have to agree.
No.
We can be very different, and we don't have to like everything that the other person does or says or their behavior or their philosophy or viewpoints. That's okay. We can still be friends. It's okay. Nobody's going to jail here. You know, nobody's doing
No.
anything illegal. Nobody's, going out and causing harm. We just have very different perspectives on some things, and that's okay.
Well, those different perspectives are what helps you get a complete picture of something. Because they might see something you don't see.
Yes.
And then you're going to get a more well-rounded understanding of a particular topic or whatever it might be, a person's life or history or whatever, and you're going to be a better person for having that different perspective. Just like you, when you did that whole video on aggressive activism versus non-aggressive activism, you started to say how you see deasis' side of being more aggressive because of the effects that it has and how it works in situations versus the non-aggressive activism. So those different perspectives are extremely healthy to have.
Yeah. And if you don't at least understand the other side, then you can't cooperate with it. You can't find middle ground. You can't compromise in the ways that people need to compromise to live together with some kind of harmony. Hello,
Right.
American politics. I mean, it's a disaster because nobody agrees with anybody else. And if you don't agree with them, I swear it's like can I say this? The politicians are giant. They have their own cults. It's like if you don't follow their philosophy to the letter, you get flailed by that side. I mean, why do I'm not in anybody's group anymore. Well, I am my own group. I agree with some of you. I agree with some of you. And, whoever meets my, bullet point of what's most important, that's the guy or the lady that I'm going to follow. That I don't get this whole mentality where people are just flail. I hate Twitter. Don't get me started on Twitter. The way people flail each other over these things, I just don't understand it. I'm like, I thought I left the cult.
Well, I mean, you keep up with Steve Hassan at all?
A little bit. I mean, I follow him on Twitter, and
right. You see, he wrote a book on the cult of Trump.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, one of the world's leading cult experts writes a book on that. There's something to that when he's writing a book about it. So
yeah, no question. And it doesn't apply to any particular side. I'm not on any particular side. It applies across the board. But again, tribalism, biology, that's how the brain works. We have not evolved out of that. If you believe in evolution, we have not gotten away from that yet. Maybe in a few more million years, we'll actually push all that stuff aside.
If we're still around by then.
Yeah, or maybe someone will create the great AI and we'll all be uploaded into the computer and won't have any of these biological problems again.
There you go. That'll be our higher consciousness. That's right. Electronic.
I'm going to live on the beach, the digitized beach,
It'll be like the holodeck from Star Trek.
That's right. That'd be okay. I don't
love
think
that.
I'd complain about that.
No, I wouldn't either. So let's go back to we talked about friendships, talked about Jimmy, we talked about Deasis a little bit. So how did you go about forming new friendships when you came out? Did you start to form them before you came out, or were you just out, had lost all your friends, and had to start fresh from that point?
That was actually one of the hardest parts of leaving, because even though we were both fully awake, we were fully out, that's it. We're done. We're gone. We're not going to any meetings. We've written our dissociation, all of that. This is long before the channel started. We both had a difficult time getting close to people who are worldly. I'm like, but we're worldly now, if you want to call it. But
Yeah.
that part, it took a while. And we were very, very lucky. Our next door neighbors in Charlotte, we had a new set of neighbors move in. He is a retired lieutenant colonel, and she is a retired ballerina with, I forget the name of it's
I don't know. My car's going off for some reason.
The woes of being in the garage.
Startled me. I'm like, what the heck?
Oh, it's like that commercial for the Super Bowl where the kid's dressed as Darth Vader and he points at the car and it starts and he thinks he's got the Force.
I must have the Force.
You got the Force.
Or I'm a demon-possessed apostate.
Yeah, that's
now.
right. There you go. It's all that
so
demonic power you're wielding.
There's your answer, folks.
Use it responsibly. But yeah, she is a retired ballerina from, I forget, the Royal Ballet in the UK, which is like the biggest thing. And I wouldn't know that, but Beth taught ballet for years and dance ballet. So when she found out that the neighbor was Royal Ballet, she had to go talk to this lady, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we became fast friends. And it's great because she was from the Royal Ballet, had this very notable life, danced all over the world. He's a lieutenant colonel, 6 tours in Afghanistan, worked in the intelligence division. So, this guy's way up there. And he would have been, they wanted him to be a colonel, but he turned it down to retire. He wanted to retire. So he would have been a colonel and he refused. So here we're dealing with 2 people that in the world of Watchtower are the worst of the worst of the world. Fame, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the arts, dance. Oh my goodness, that's so wrong. Limelight.
Mm-hmm.
He's ex-military, and not just any military, like way up there military. And these are wonderful, amazing people. And seeing that, how just genuine and awesome these 2 people are, because we stay in touch and we visit and still it changed my viewpoint entirely. And again, more scales falling down.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I realized that people are just people. People are just people. Yeah, there's bad eggs out there. There's people you don't want to hang out with, or people you just don't really sync with, even though they're fine, they're nice, decent people, but you don't get along. And that made the difference. Thanks to them, and I'm forever grateful for them, I do not have problems making friendship now.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah. You always need get over that first hurdle outside of that friendship. And especially when you were able, especially like with your wife, having so much in common with that lady with the ballerina thing. That really just helps that friendship start off with something in common to really bond. And that's awesome. And then you can sprout out more from there, which you guys did too, because then you started your own meetup group.
Yep.
If you hadn't started that, you wouldn't have met, Jimmy.
That's true. And Jimmy brought Deasis, so that's how I met Deasis.
So, those are other suggestions for people coming out, find a meetup group or start a meetup group. I know it's been said many times, and
and
excellent way to.
We did that in Charlotte. Beth started one, and she had like 20 people show up, and we moved to a much smaller town. Winston-Salem is a small town. It is not a big city. We had our highest number of people so far is 16. And we just found out, or in the past week, about 2 more Exjws who live in the area. And
Oh,
one of them is
nice.
coming to the meetup this Saturday, because we have a meetup this Saturday.
Yeah, I was just going to plug that. So
Yeah, so shoot, if you're in North Carolina, anywhere near Winston-Salem, you know, we have a meetup, and you can put a link, I suppose, to the meetup group, because there's an announcement on there with directions and all that stuff. So I'll send you the link.
Yeah, I'll put that link in the description, and then I'm going to put a link to your channel in the description as well for joining me today.
Sure.
So anyways, so you've made some friends. You're living your life. So do you have any hobbies or anything that you like to do on the side?
You know, I tell myself all the time I need a hobby. But between work, family, and channel, and the additional activism that comes along with that, I don't have a lot of time for a hobby. But I'm lucky in that my job it's like a hobby to me, because I've always loved to write code. I still love to write code. When I get excited about a project, I don't want to do anything else but that. And I feel the same way about the channel. I love the work that I do. I love the results that I'm getting. So I don't really feel the need for an external hobby, but I have been thinking about it, because now we've got a basement now that we moved to this house, and we moved the washer and dryer up to the first floor. So nobody goes down there anymore but me. It's like my man cave, and my tools and stuff are down there. So I've been racking my brain to try to figure out, what can I do, like woodworking, or maybe I'll get into machining, or just so I don't know, just something.
Yeah.
I thought about getting a 3D printer and
Oh,
starting
nice.
to like build figures and things as practice, but I don't know. I'm all over the place.
Hey, and you know what though? That's something you have time to think about now, and can
Yeah,
consider and can plan. Whereas before you didn't have that. Your
true.
hobbies were the ministry and the meetings,
Yeah.
and personal study, and
Oh
just
joy, yeah.
I know, right? How much more can I beat myself down for not doing enough?
Yeah,
That was your
exactly.
hobby.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but I mean, so you, but I mean, especially too, you got family. So I remember that one video you did. You actually inspired me to do a video on the same thing about, you had that video where you showed how you went out with your kids to a baseball game, and
Oh yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
was a meeting night that the game was
Yep,
played
it
on,
was. It was a
and
Tuesday, yeah.
so you showed that aspect of life. Now I get to go out and have fun with my kids rather than sit them in this building and tell them to shut up and be quiet and
Right.
pay attention. Now we're
Yep.
going having fun and actually bonding with each other rather
Yep.
than being miserable with each other all evening.
Imagine that. Quite the difference.
It is quite the difference. So, what other things besides like baseball do you do with your family now, and birthdays that
Oh,
you have
my
the time for
kids
now?
are huge fans of video games, but now their big thing now is chess. And I'm talking about with the board and the pieces chess. So they're in an after school program that here locally. Love it. Love the people who work there. Just fantastic program. And amazingly cheap, because it's run by the city. So I used to have my kids at the Y. Ooh, the Y.
Oh no! Well,
The
chess is
devil at
bad
the Y.
too. Don't
But
forget that.
don't get me wrong, the Y was great with their after school program, but it was very expensive, and the kids love this one even more, and it's like not even a quarter the price. So they play chess every day now, and my youngest is actually the best at it, and I'm just really impressed with how good they're getting. So we play games together, and we go to like Chuck E. Cheese together, because we've got this one game they've got called what's it called? It's like Shooter Gallery or something, where you have to fire at chains or strings that hold like toys that are moving across the screen, and if you can cut through the chain or the string or whatever and it drops, you get points and you get tickets. Well, I, being software developer, figured out the way to maximize the number of tickets. We've got the game figured out. So all three of us, because it's a 3-player game and there's 3 of us, when it's me and my 2 kids, we go. we just park ourselves in front of that game for like an hour and a half. And last time we got 9,000 tickets. So Chuck E. Cheese, I did the math. If you count the tickets, the cost of the tickets, because you have to pay a penny per ticket, Chuck E. Cheese actually paid me $2 for us to play there.
Coming out on top. That's good.
Came out on top, right? So we do stuff like we'll go to the park together when the weather's good, and just the typical American family stuff. We have Thanksgiving dinners together. We have friends to the house. And just typical, normal human being stuff that we couldn't do before.
Yeah, and that's always just so refreshing to be able to do. You just to be able to meet somebody, conjure up a friendship, and be like, hey, you want to come over and hang out? Sure. Oh yeah, sure, let's do it, and not have any expectations of, oh, okay, well maybe we could do our Watchtower lesson together today, or let's sing some Kingdom Melodies.
Yeah, let's play some. Oh, the new ones. Even when I was I hated the new ones.
Oh my God, I feel you. I remember the convention when that songbook came out, and I remember immediately hating it from the get-go. I'm just like, these things are awful. I mean, I play a little guitar myself, and I actually learned how to play a lot from the old Kingdom Melody book, the brown one, and that's what I used to play. But these new ones, I'm just like, I couldn't even get into that.
I mean, give me an old gospel hymn any day of the week. I love gospel music. I love choir music, and I also love heavy metal and jazz. So go figure that out. But I like all kinds of stuff. Not a big fan of country though. I'll listen to it live. I love it live, but I'm not a big fan of listening to it like on the radio. But I love the old hymns, the old hymnal sound. That new, it sounds like cheesy sitcom music, it's terrible.
It's horrible. I wouldn't even want to put it in an elevator.
Yeah. Oh no, don't put that in the elevator. You'd be cleaning up vomit from the elevator every time someone rides in the thing.
You're dripping out the bottom all the way down the elevator shaft.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Now see, I went to Unitarian Church a few times since I've left, and they did some of those hymnal songs there, and that was actually enjoyable to sing along with. So I know a little bit about what you're talking about. I never went to any churches or anything like you have to get those real, especially those Southern gospel.
Oh Lord! When I first exited, like the first church I went to, because I've been to a bunch of them, I've been to Baptist, Presbyterian, Unitarian Universalist. There's been a couple others. I've been to a bunch, but the first one was a Baptist church, not Southern Baptist, although they came from that. They had left it because this is a very progressive Baptist church, all-inclusive, LGBTQ, the whole thing.
Right.
They even had an atheist deacon. Go figure that out.
Oh, wow.
Wonderful people, wonderful community, even though I wasn't a believer anymore. Amazing. I promise you, if I still lived in Charlotte, I would still be going just because the people were so great. And the choir. The choir there was unbelievable. I used to tell the pastor and his wife, they were co-pastors, very progressive, he and she, man and wife, both pastors. She was an amazing speaker. Boy, I'd never heard anybody give sermons like she does. Just super inspiring and engaging and awesome. But their choir had a soprano that could hit high C without a mic with power I had never heard live before. And this is a church, so their sanctuary is designed to really magnify the sound of the choir. And I used to tell the pastor and his wife, I'm like, look, you guys are my pastors, but the choir, that's my religion. Because they were just amazing. The Unitarian one was pretty good, but it was a smaller building and it didn't have the acoustics. The Presbyterian one was amazing, though. They did a fantastic job, too. So, but I don't really go anywhere with any regularity, but sometimes I'll get a bug and I'll just go visit somewhere, see what it's like.
Right. Yeah, I've been wanting to do more of that as well. I haven't had the time mainly because of my schedule.
Yeah.
Because I work a night shift schedule, and it makes it kind of hard to get out and do things during the day, especially on a Sunday, because Sunday night I go in and that's my Monday at work. So trying to get up and go to a church or anything is very
Yeah.
hard to do,
Yeah.
which
I
I'm
can
glad
see
I don't
that.
have to do with any, I can not go anywhere and not feel guilty about it anymore.
Right. But if you want to go, it does make it harder. I get it.
Exactly. So anyways, so have you had any, like, coming out? I know they always like to, the society always likes to say, when you leave, you're going to have the worst life. You're going to be depressed or anything. And I'm not trying to keep this on get a real somber note or anything for this, because it's supposed to be a more positive, what you're doing after you're left and everything. But have you had any hardships come after leaving and, in your new life, or anything unexpected that you just didn't think was going to come or happen?
Well, as you can imagine, when we were witnesses, it was all about paradise, right? Paradise and
Mm-hmm.
everlasting life, paradise and everlasting life. So at first, it took me a while to wrap my head around that. To say I was concerned is too strong, but I had a little thing in the back of my head that, like, just slightly disquieting. What if this is it? What if there is nothing else? What if this is all we get?
Yeah.
And uh, I dealt with that because I'm not a materialist. I don't believe that uh, life could have arisen in a finite universe through random chance, and that's based on math and software development. Uh, the math just doesn't stack up for me. Plus, I've done a bunch of research into like chemistry and the chemistry of life, and just how incredibly difficult and what the odds are that all these different things would happen. And so I don't know. I'm at the point where I don't know. But I started practicing mindfulness meditation. I'm a big fan of like Eckhart Tolle. He's my favorite. Others too, Sam Harris, Robert Wright, just wonderful authors. And when I started that over a year ago now, and I've gotten more peace from that than I had from 37 years as a witness,
Mm-hmm.
just in 1 year. So I'm at a place now where it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if this is it. If this is it, this is beautiful, and I'll take it. And if it's not, hey, that's beautiful too, and I'll take that. But regardless of whether it is or whether it isn't, I'm not going to be a different person. I'm going to be the same person. I'm going to be the kind of person I want to be, the kind of person I'm driven to be. And I don't need a God breathing down my neck to make me do it. If there is a God, great. But apparently he's left me to my own devices to figure out how to make this work. And so that's what I'm going to do. And I'm okay with that. So I really haven't had any major drastic events. I mean, there's some stuff with the kids because I have shared custody and all that, but I can't really talk about those things because, in court.
Right.
Uh, but I was concerned for a little while that my kids were not going to snap out of it, but they did, and they don't put any stock, as far as I can tell, in the religion or anything anymore, and they love the holidays and all that. So, uh, so far, I mean, things have been pretty easy. Beth, not as much because her parents shun her, and that's you can imagine that's a sore, difficult thing to deal with. My brothers, they don't. Uh, they don't shun me or anything. We don't talk about like spiritual stuff because they know that I don't believe and all that.
Right.
Uh, but we were all kind of different because my dad was different. He was a partaker, but he wasn't crazy. Some of the ones you meet, you're like, there's something wrong with that guy. He was very loving, kind, caring person, the kind of person I aspire to be. And so we never really got that be judgmental and shun people vibe growing up. My mom took off when I was young. My mother's one of those people, shun me, please. So
Right.
she's very super peemy. Uh, but yeah, I can't think of anything other than that for a little while that was disturbing. But I dealt with it the way I always deal with it. But I educate myself and I find the best solution I can find and just try to work it. I'm I tell people I'm way overconfident. I really shouldn't say that. The lieutenant colonel told me, don't say you're overconfident. You're not overconfident. Overconfident means that you're careless and you're doing things that make mistakes and cause problems because you think you can do something you don't. Since you're not overconfident, you are, what's the word? You're self-assured. That's different. It's a very different thing. So because of that, I'm not inclined, I'm very optimistic. I'm not inclined to look at the dark side of things. If there's a problem, I can fix it. Just take the steps, do the analysis, do the
Right.
research, find out what the best choice is and make it happen and work that. I've just always been that way, which is why I couldn't work for other people for very long. I worked for corporations for about 7 years before I became self-employed, because they would follow these policies and procedures that made no pragmatic sense at all.
Oh
And I
yeah.
would buck against that. And then, of course, they're your managers, so they get mad at you because you don't want to follow the rules. And that never works out well for keeping a job. So I would switch rather than be fired. I'd be like, I'm going to go find another job, until I finally just struck out on my own. And I did better on my own than I ever did working for somebody else.
Right.
That's just always been my attitude. There's nothing we can't handle.
That's true. And like you said, the biggest thing to do is, if you don't know what's happening, educate yourself on
Yeah.
the matter. Especially nowadays, the internet is so prevalent.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much in the African country, but most of the civilized world has internet access. If you don't know, go look it up.
Yeah.
Find out. And same thing for me. That's helped me a lot to, when I'm facing things I don't understand. Well, let's go find out what it is and see if I can understand it better, and that'll help alleviate whatever stress or anxiety you might have about the subject anyways.
Yeah, I'm not a defeatist. We got this. And I know that
Yeah.
there are things that can happen that there's nothing you can do anything about, but that's where mindfulness comes in. Because for the things I cannot change, for the things I cannot fix, that taught me to be able to accept it and sit with it, and not, has Tolle put it, he says, don't attach to it. Don't attach to it. It is what it is. It's a thing that is happening. It's, don't judge it. Don't attach to it. Just sit with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that by doing that, it takes away so much of the anxiety that I used to feel, because I felt I had to fix it. I had to fix it. It's got to be done.
Right.
And that would just cause more stress and make me less able to actually fix the problem. But now that I can actually sit with something that I cannot fix and accept what I cannot change, it just brings peace to situations that otherwise would cause me a lot of stress.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very good approach to have to it. So, anyways, we're gonna wrap this up here, and one final thing for you here. Um, do you have any advice for people who are rebuilding their lives, or suggestions that might help them, especially if they're coming out fresh?
I think the first thing you really got to do, especially if you lost your whole social structure when you left, was you have to rebuild that. You have to get over the difficulty of making friends, because once you can do that, everything else is so much easier. You're not on your own anymore. You have people to lean on. You have people who can lean on you. And it makes rebuilding just much, much easier once you have a support group. And if that support group is a meetup of XJWs, great. Or if it's your neighbors, or if it's people you work with and now you can hang out with because you don't care if they're worldly, whatever it is, you have to replace that social element. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't do that, no man's an island, no person is an island. We can't do everything on our own. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. You'd be amazed at how nice these worldly people are.
Oh yeah.
Rebuild that structure, because until you do that, it's going to be a much harder row to hoe.
Absolutely, and that's some great advice. And I'm going to add one more plug in here for our viewers. Watching Watchtower
Yes.
Facebook group is a great place. John's one of the admins. I'm one of the moderators for the group, and we always try to keep it respectful. We don't tolerate any name calling or anything like that. We want it to be respectful, but we also leave it open for people to discuss what's on their minds without censoring that either. So as long as we play nice in the sandbox, as Jimmy likes to say,
Yeah.
we can all get along and, scroll past what you don't agree with. And it's a great place to come. And a lot of people have had a lot of positive comments about this group. And we're trying to keep it the best group out there that we can make it.
I agree. It's a fantastic group.
So anyways, that's all I have for today. I want to thank you, Jon, for coming on and doing this with me today. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. And for our viewers, if you like the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. And as Jon always says, hit the little bell icon to get notifications on my next videos coming out. And as always, thank you for watching.